Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know this video has been due for a while, but finally I got some time. I was able to break in my equipment, my cables, and I thought this might be a good time for me to make this video. So I'm going to talk about an important modification that I did on my Lampizator Golden Atlantic TRP that I feel has offered a phenomenal improvement in sound quality. So this modification is a I2S input installation. I ended up sending my DAC to Poland. The entire process took about a month for installation, and I got it back. In this video, I'm going to talk about my rationale behind why I decided to do this change, how I went about it, and what mods I had to do in my setup to incorporate these changes. My music is mostly jazz and female vocal jazz, and I feel like the mid-range is fantastic and phenomenal with SPDIF connections, and I prefer SPDIF over USB connections. With my limited knowledge, I think it's because with USB connections, the source clock is thrown away and the DAC uses its own internal clock. I have had a variety of reclocking devices in the past, and I always wanted to take those clocks forward, which is why I started experimenting with SPDIF connections, and I fell in love with the mid-range that the SPDIF connections offered. One of the devices that I use to convert USB to SPDIF is a digital to digital converter. I've used a few different digital to digital converters, like the Antipodes P2, and then the Empirical Audio USB to SPDIF converter. I believe it's called the Off-Ramp 5. And my latest digital to digital converter is a Denafrips Gaia. The Denafrips Gaia converts USB to SPDIF, and this SPDIF connection was passed on to my Lampizator Golden Atlantic TRP. It sounded great, no complaints. One of the things that I noticed was SPDIF connections are limited to 192 kilohertz, but the Lampizator DAC is capable of doing 384 kilohertz. So I wanted to make full use of the 384 kilohertz, and I noticed that the Denafrips Gaia has an I2S output. Which is what they suggest if you're using a Denafrips Terminator Plus or a Terminator DAC to use the I2S connections. I wanted to see if there is a way to install I2S input on the Lampizator DAC, so I should be able to use the I2S connection, which will give me the best of both worlds. Transferring the source clock to the DAC and forcing the DAC to use the source clock, which in this case would be the Denafrips clock, and get the full 384 kilohertz signal, so I'm not limited to 192 kilohertz. Andy from Lampizator got back to me and tried explaining the technical aspects of this conversion, and from what I understood, the DAC chip, which is the Engine 53 present in the Golden Atlantic TRP, will not play DSD from an external I2S stream, which means I would be limited only to 384 kilohertz PCM. This is how I understood the technical aspects from what Andy explained to me. Currently, when you're playing USB on the DAC chip gets I2S stream, 4 signals, and additionally 5 other signals carrying the DSD and muting information. So 9 total signals is being sent from the USB to the DAC chip. This is what is happening internally. But when we're sending I2S signals to the same DAC chip from an external streamer, like in my case, through the external streamer, which is the Gaia, we lack those 5 signals necessary to play DSD and eliminate the pops, and I believe it's called the muting signal. So he proposed a solution that would meet my expectation. Change the DAC board in the Golden Atlantic TRP from Engine 53 to R to R. R to R stands for obviously resistor to resistor type. So with Lampizator, R to R was an older model, and the Engine 53 is the newer model. There are advantages and disadvantages to both models. The advantage of the Engine 53 is the Engine 53 would be able to, or is capable of doing up to DSD 512. The advantages of R2R is the signal to noise ratio is better because of the higher signal level in the R2R situation. He also mentioned that he would be able to eliminate interstage capacitors before the tubes in the R2R configuration. He also said that I would, since my music is mostly female vocal jazz, I would enjoy R2R more than Engine 53. Again, this is very subjective. I know that there has been a lot of discussions back and forth about which is better in the What's Best forum, and people have their own opinions. By converting my DAC chip to R2R, I would only have to pass 3 signals from the streamer to the DAC chip. And these 3 signals would be passed through the I2S stream, and no master clock would be needed. Even though the Denafrips offers a master clock output, the new DAC chip would not need it. The R2R will recover this master clock from the other 3 signals that it receives. Again, R2R, contrary to some of the discussions that I saw on What's Best forum, does not limit tube rolling and would not eliminate the rectifier tubes. So getting all this information, I was convinced that I wanted to take a chance and switch my DAC from Engine 53 to R2R. So I gave him the go-ahead to do 2 changes. The first change was to take out the Engine 53 chip, replace it with the R2R chip, and then the second one was to sacrifice my BNC input so the RJ45 socket can be installed in place of the BNC input. And it had to be very close to the USB input. The I2S LV CMOS is extremely sensitive to noise. Hence, the cable that connects the 2 devices should be super short, as in like 25 centimeters. Andy said that he was using a 0.5 meter cable, and it was very unstable, and he highly recommended that I use a 25 centimeter Ethernet cable to connect the source to the destination. In my case, the source was the Denafrips Gaia, the destination was the Lampizator. I contacted Revelation Audio to make this cable for me. I had to come up with a very clever solution for this. What you're seeing is the short 25 centimeter cable. I had to place these 2 devices with their backs facing each other so I can connect the 2 devices using the short cable. So I had to again, reach out to Butcher Block Audio to make this small, custom rigid rack that I could place in front of my old Butcher Block rack. So I can put these 2 racks back to back, and I also put these 2 devices back to back and make these connections possible. Let's talk about sound quality. I can 100% say that this is the best sound that I have ever had in my setup. Mid-range is phenomenal. It definitely was a night and day difference, and I believe apart from the sweet mid-range, the other most important difference in sound quality that I heard was the 3-dimensionality. And I attribute that to the Denafrips Gaia's clock. Denafrips Gaia and the Terminator, the reason why they are superior devices or because of their phenomenal clocks. And the fact that I am able to use the Denafrips Gaia's clock information along with the Lampizator and combine that with the mid-range warmth that the Lampi provides, I feel like I am in audio heaven. This was definitely a huge upgrade for me. This was a huge gamble for me because I was actually converting my DAC from Engine 53 to R2R. That's number 1, which is like a step going back. Number 2, I ended up spending money on shipping the Golden Atlantic TRP, across the globe. And plus the cost of installation and cost of parts. I probably would have lost about $2,000 if this did not work. So it literally was a gamble. But I am very happy that I made this change because I can tell you this sounds more like a marriage made in heaven. Denafrips Gaia along with Lampizator Golden Atlantic TRP connected with a 25 centimeter I2S cable is heaven. If you are considering this mod, I would highly recommend you do this. In one sentence, I can definitely say that my sound quality has improved tremendously. This is by far the best sound I've ever had in my setup. If you want to know the nuances, I'm going to have to make a part 2 video detailing what kind of differences I saw and what kind of songs that I used to test. So stay tuned for my part 2 video. By the way, feel free to subscribe and like this video if you like my opinions. And this time I'm planning to do a giveaway. It's going to be Apple AirPods, not the latest ones, the first version. So I'm going to pick a person from one of my subscribers, and you will be receiving an Apple AirPod. Feel free to subscribe and like this video again. Thanks for your support.